Hi Year Threes. So today I'm going to carry on with the Train to Impossible Places. I'm going to read you half of chapter 8 today. It's a bit of a long chapter, so we decided we're going to split it in half and we'll listen to the other half tomorrow. This chapter is called The Hall of Spyglasses. Captain Neoma was angry. Actually, she was nervous, but she couldn't afford to let anybody know that, especially not here in the observatory. It was the most secure room in the Union, its existence known only to an elite few, and as captain of the guard it was her job to keep it that way. And that was exactly what she had always done, until 2 days ago, when something very badly went wrong. She still didn't know why it had gone wrong, which was why she was so nervous, and also why she was hiding those nerves behind a thunderously bad mood. Word of her temper must have spread, as hardly any of the observers dare glance up from their desks as she stalked past on her patrol, and even the other guards seemed reluctant to make eye contact. That suited her just fine. She was still in charge here, and she wanted everyone to know it. The observatory was a large, ornate and circular room with panelled walls of dark wood and a high domed ceiling of midnight blue, decorated with antiquated star charts. Most of the floor space was taken up by the desks, which faced outwards in 3 concentric rings. Each was occupied by an observer, hunched over their work in silent concentration. 500 in all of various species and most of them children. That's all her job really was, Captain Neoma reflected. Babysitting. And to think she used to fight monsters for a living. She ground her teeth and walked on. A few observers were daring enough to sneak a look at her as she passed, but she fixed them with a warning glare, and they quickly put their eyes back to their spyglasses. Even in her better moods, Captain Neoma wasn't a fan of the spyglass. Frankly, they gave her the creeps. Maybe it was the way they looked so much like normal telescopes, harmless brass tubes mounted on little tripods, one on each desk. But their jet-black lenses always seemed to stare into nothing. The observatory had no windows, after all. Nevertheless, Captain Neoma could feel them watching, their magically charged glass peeling back the layers of reality between the observatory and the furthest reaches of the Union. Each spyglass was trained on a different location: Nethertown, Troll Territory, Big Sky Range, and so on, and the observers made careful notes of everything they saw. It was the biggest research project in history, from weather patterns to train timetables, volcanic eruptions to shopping habits. Life in the impossible places was being painstakingly catalogued, and the air beneath the observatory dome was full of the whispering scratch of pen on paper. At least the observers didn't take much looking after. The observatory rules are simple: no talking, no passing notes. And these were very smart kids. Very smart, in fact. The best and the brightest from throughout the Union. If they performed well, there was a free university place in it for them at the end of it all. None of them were willing to risk losing that, at least almost none of them. She spared a resentful glance for the observatory's only empty desk as she approached it. Its unattended spyglass felt like an accusation, a black mark on her otherwise spotless record. These kids weren't allowed to sneeze without her permission, let alone disappear. How had this happened, and more to the point, why? Why had this observer chosen to throw away his whole future? Goodness knew, he didn't have much of a past to go back on. She was still turning the problem over in her mind when she became aware of a whisper running through the room. Heads were turning. A few people pointed. Narrowing her eyes, Captain Neoma followed the commotion to its source and almost gasped. An observer was away from her post. Hurrying between the desks, the other guards saw her too, but Captain Neoma stayed them with her look. She would be the only one to deal with this. "You there!" she barked, her words amplified by the dome above. "Where do you think you're going?" The observer, a young girl with blonde hair and thick-rimmed glasses, froze in shock. I'm, she stammered, as Captain Neoma bore down on her. The girl wore the same dull grey uniform as all the other observers, and the name tag pinned to her chest read, "Hi, my name's Maya. I'm studying the Crepusculan Wastes." "You know the data protection rules," Captain Neoma hissed. "No one's allowed away from their desks without my express permission." She spotted something in the girl's hand. It was a page torn out of a report book, filled with handwriting and folded over. "What's this?" said Neoma. Maya tried to hide it behind her back, but almost twice the girl's height, Captain Neoma simply leaned over her and reached for it. Maya shrank back. "Please, Captain, I'm not breaking any rules. I'm just following orders. Honest." "I didn't give you any orders. Hand it over." "I know." The girl looked across the room to the door marked Head Office. "His lordship did." Captain Neoma stopped reaching for the note and glared intently into the girl's eyes, searching for any hint of a lie. She couldn't find one. Uncomfortably aware of the attention they were drawing, she took Maya by the hand and led her into the centre of the room. There were no desks here, just an open circular space where they couldn't be so easily overlooked. The other observers all sat with their backs to them. Captain Neoma lowered herself onto one knee and placed a reassuring hand on the girl's shoulder. "Tell me, Maya," she whispered, "what did his lordship want you to do?" He told me to keep a watch on the obsidian tower and to tell him straight away if I saw anything strange happen. And I did. See something strange, that is. Maya was breathing hard, and with a trembling hand brandishing the bit of paper, I wrote it all down, just like he asked. Captain Neoma made a concerted effort not to tighten her grip on Maya's shoulder. She had no idea why his lordship would want information on the obsidian tower, but she had a feeling it spelled trouble. Anything involving the Lady Crepuscular always did. "You've done an excellent job, Maya," she said, giving the girl's shoulder a pat. "But I'll take it from here." She held out her hand for the paper. Maya drew back. "He said nobody else was to read it. Look," she pointed to the word confidential, which she had written on the outside of the folded paper. "I promise not to open it," Captain Neoma said. "On my honour." She held Maya's gaze unblinking until Maya finally handed the paper over. "Thank you," said Captain Neoma, standing. "Now get back to your post. There's still work to be done." Maya grinned with relief. "For knowledge is our treasure," she said. Yes, said Captain Neoma, "and we are its keepers. Now get on with you." Maya nodded and hurried away. Captain Neoma watched until she was back at her desk, then crossed the room to the curator's office, already wishing she hadn't promised not to read the note. What could his lordship be looking for? And more importantly, why hadn't he told her about this? Perhaps the missing observer had shaken his trust in her. The idea stung more than a little. She approached the office, bearing a nod for Sergeant Mona, standing guard outside it, but was surprised to see the blind was drawn over the window. The word "Strictly No Admittance" stencilled on it. She hesitated. "He's with a client, Captain," Sergeant Mona explained, seeing her confusion. "They've been in here all morning." Once again, Neoma was forced to hide her surprise. No one was supposed to enter the observatory without her knowing it, and they certainly weren't supposed to be taking meetings with his lordship. "He doesn't have any appointments today," she said. "Are you sure?" Sergeant Mona, painfully aware of her captain's short temper, wet her lips. "His lordship brought them in himself, Captain. I thought you knew." "No, I didn't," Neoma thought. "I can add it to the ever-growing list of things I apparently don't know." She was raising her hand to knock on the door when it was yanked open from inside and somebody swept out, almost knocking her down. "Hey!" she barked, springing clear. The figure paused and fixed Neoma with a look of simmering fury. It was a woman, tall, raven-haired, and richly dressed in a red gown, with the whole wolfskin clasped around her like a cloak. The creature's head lolled over the woman's shoulder like at a drunken angle, staring at Neoma with empty eye sockets. A heavy gold chain of office hung around the woman's neck, and more gold winked at her wrists and fingers as she gathered the wolfskin to her, as though afraid that any contact with Neoma might sully it. The woman drew breath, and Neoma expected she was about to be given a piece of her mind, so flexed her broad shoulders, making the armour plating of her combat uniform clink gently. She rested her hand on the plasma pistol strapped to her hip. Sure enough, the woman took a small step back. "Excuse me," she growled, and swept on across the room in the direction of the exit. The observers all shot her furtive glances, and even Neoma stared after her, mystified, until the armoured door of the exit swung closed behind her. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice from inside the office. "Come in, Captain," it said. "I've been expecting you." And I'm going to stop there for now and read the second half of Chapter 8 tomorrow. Have a nice evening.